Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the North Sydney Local Planning Panel. My name's Alison McCabe and I'm the chair of the panel. On behalf of all present and those watching via Teams, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of these lands in which we meet and pay our respects to ancestors and spirits past and present. Just a reminder for everybody coming in on the line to ensure that your devices are on mute, given the medium that we're on. As I said, my name's Alison McCabe and I'm the chair of the panel. Today's panel comprises, to my immediate right, Lindsay Day, to my immediate left, Michael Ryan, and to my far left, Ros Reid. I'd just like to check whether we have any conflicts of interest arising from any of the matters that we're considering today.
I have a non-pecuniary, non-significant association, or I know a submitter in regard to item 7 at Waruda Street, Kirribilli. I don't consider that needs to be addressed any further.
Conflict.
No conflict.
Thank you.
And I have the same with respect to the same item, a non-pecuniary, non-significant conflict, and I don't consider that to be significant.
Great. What item was that?
Item 7.
Item 7 as well. Thank you. Today we've got 7 items that are being considered. These matters, I'll go through them in a minute, but they essentially will be considered in turn as they turn up on the agenda. I'm just going to make some opening remarks in relation to how the meeting will run. Everybody needs to be aware that the meeting is being recorded. A copy of the recording will be uploaded to Council's website, generally within 3 to 5 days of the meeting. The way the meeting will run is, as I said, we'll move through each of the items in turn. We will hear from those persons registered who are registered to speak. We may ask questions of those people who have made submissions or registered to speak. We will then finalise that matter without discussing it any further. So those of you who are presented on, for example, item 1, will be able to leave knowing full well that there'll be no further discussion of that matter in the public forum. That's the way we will run on each of the items. Once we've dealt with all the items, we will then close the meeting to the general public and the panel will deliberate on each of those items and take on board the matters that we've heard. Those people who have registered have 3 minutes to make any presentation to the panel. And as I said, the panel may ask questions. Just so you're aware, the panel has had access to the full set of plans that came in with each of the applications, the detailed council report, the accompanying 4.6 and in a number of cases the view assessments that have been submitted with the applications. We've also taken the time this morning to go and inspect each of those sites and have had some initial briefings from council. We have also got copies of all the submissions in addition to council's summary of the submissions and their consideration of them. We have access to the full copy of submissions on each of the matters where they've been made and further submissions that have been made since the reports have been uploaded to the council website. So probably there's no need to feel that you need to repeat what is in your submission. The panel is very keen to hear the key issues of concern, if there are areas of concern with the any application, and those areas of the application that may have an impact on you. So I'm just going to run through so everybody knows why they're here. So item 1 is the development application at 22 Shooter Street, McMahon's Point. Item 2 is 51 to 59 Alexander Street at Crow's Nest. Item 3 is 126 to 128 Willoughby Road at Crow's Nest. Item 4 is the development application at 450 to 476 Miller Street, Camaray. Item 5 is 55 Cowjoy Avenue, Camaray. Item 6 is 11 Bennett Street at Cremorne, and item 7 is 2 Waroota Street at Kirribilli. And as I said, we'll be dealing with those each in turn. It's very important to understand that in making your presentations, there should be no inappropriate comments or reflections that people either present or not at the meeting. That would be inconsistent with the adopted practices and procedures of the local planning panel. The panel is very interested in hearing the facts and the issues with the application, but is not interested in any type of defamatory comments or comments regarding personalities or otherwise. So with that, as I said, a reminder, please keep your devices on mute. No one needs to speak unless they're invited to. And as I said, we'll probably ask questions or may ask questions of those who do present. So with that, I'm going to move on to item 1. So as item 1 is the development application for the demolition of the existing dwellings and ancillary structures and construction of a new 2-storey dwelling at 22 Shooter Street, McMahon's Point. We have a number of submitters registered to speak, and we also have some representatives from the applicant who also registered to speak. I should have said at the beginning, the way that this runs is I will hear from submitters first, and then I will move on to the applicants. Submitters generally have, or submitters and applicants, we're looking at your presentations to be in the order of 3 minutes, and we'll keep an eye on that time, given that we've got quite a number of items today. So with that, I'm going to call on Mr. Hugh Painter and Georgina Brown. I'm not sure whether you're together or separate. I can see Hugh. I'm not sure whether Georgina's there as well.
Thanks, Chair. I think Georgina and I have agreed that I will speak and we'll use the 3 minutes. So I'd just like to start by saying thank you to the panel for giving us this opportunity to speak and to address you on this important development today. We want to address the panel on 3 matters which were covered in our submission, which we lodged on Monday. The chief overarching point is that the property was formerly, or is now, a cottage. It's now proposed to be a 3-storey terrace when it suits it, such as on height and side setback, but it does not want to be a terrace when it comes to other matters, and it is on those 3 matters that I want to briefly address the panel on. So dealing with the first of those, which concerns the related issues of rear setback and view sharing. Now, the broad point is that the development on the first floor goes well beyond the current rears of the 2 terraces to the north, that's 24 and 26, and the 2 terraces to the south, that's 20 and 18. There is also no side setback, which is a related issue, and there are privacy screens proposed to the balcony on the first floor. Now, this is no idle complaint. This issue directly goes to view sharing issues. There is a spectacular view from the first floor rear balcony at number 24, looking across the rear of 22 and 20 out to the harbour and the Anzac Bridge beyond. There is some suggestion in the development submissions that this was previously obscured by a Tasmanian gum tree. The 2 points on that are, 1, this is just factually wrong, as demonstrated by the photos in our submission, and 2, the point is now that the view is unobstructed. And if you've been there, that view is quite breathtaking. The council report suggests that the rear setback should be moved back by 3 metres, with a side setback on the first floor by 1.1 metres. There's no comment on what's to do with the privacy screens. Now, that's clearly an improvement on the proposal. Without such a change from 24 Shooter Street, we'd be looking at a blank wall for several metres, totally obscuring the view and well beyond what the current property now has. In our submission on Monday, we've noted that we think the setback should be pushed back by 4.5 metres rather than the 3. Now, that's on the basis that when we went out to the property on Sunday, we got out our tape measures from the rear fence, which is what the plans ask us to do. 3 metres is still not an alignment with the rear setback of 24, and by our measure, it is not consistent with the rear setback of 20. When I measured it on Sunday, it seemed to be about a 1.5 metres further would be required to bring it into alignment with 20. It is hard to tell. I'm not a professional in this space, but that seemed to be what the measurement was that I could come up with Georgie. Now, the proposal is from the recommendation from the council is that consent be given subject to drawings. Now, we are obviously concerned about what those drawings, which we haven't seen, will show, and that the drawings will in fact reflect what we want the property to achieve. But that's clearly an issue for this panel to consider. There's also an issue of privacy screens. We don't want the privacy screens to be blocking a view when the intent is to not. Two other minor issues, they are important. There is a side setback issue. Now, the development protocol does contemplate a 90mm side setback, but that can be waived. Now, in circumstances where it is waived, such as this, and it's only 10 centimetres is the proposal, then the Galea principles apply. One suggestion from the council report is that there'll be a report post-demolition, post-construction. But when you're talking about a 10 centimetre setback, we would like that report to be done post-demolition, pre-construction, because otherwise how can we tell what the damage was and how can we rectify it? So that's one issue. And the second issue is strictly under the Galea principles, a proposal should not come before the council until there is an access and maintenance arrangement in place, and there is none. So obviously we would like that to be observed in this case, consistent with Galea. Very quickly, finally on fencing, this might be a minor issue, but it is an important one. The rear of 22 is currently consists of a structure which sits on our boundary, and in fact it encroaches it. It will be replaced by a fence. It's proposed to be a 1.8 metre fence. The current fencing is 1.4 metres, which is obviously facilitates views from our property at the rear. It's not clear to us where the 1.8 is actually measured from, and 22 is lower than 24. But in any event, we would obviously like that fence to be consistent with what's currently there between the fence that does exist between 24 and 22, and currently is consistent with the rear of 24. That's all I wanted to address you on, given the time.
Thank you, Hugh. That was very clear, and we did get to your property. So we were able to view the proposal from that rear terrace area of your property. I'm just going to see if there's any questions from the panel.
None for me, thanks.
So Hugh, just clear in terms of your position on alignment, is that your recommendation is that the building align with the external point of number 20, so where that
Yes.
roof comes down
On the first floor.
yes, yeah, that's what we saw. And just correct me if I'm wrong, but the fences, the common fences between your property and the subject site look to be in quite good condition. They didn't look to be very old. Is the position that got that right? Yeah, that if they were left as is, would that be acceptable?
Well, I think just on the fencing between 24 and 22, if I'm thinking I'm on the ground floor walking out to the rear, most of that fencing actually is a brick wall.
Yes.
Which we think is on our property and therefore will remain because it's our wall, not 22's wall.
Yeah.
Then that's the first point. So the second point is then there's a structure which is, it's an old structure. It will be demolished. It's currently got wood palings running horizontally. That constitutes a wall, but it will need to be replaced by a fence.
Oh.
And then for about 1.5 or 2 metres at the very end, there is a paling fence there, and that is 1.4 metres when I measured it. So we anticipate.
Yeah, it's that paling fence I think that we saw that looked to be in reasonable condition.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, and so I think we anticipate that would then run backwards towards the house, but the houses at the same height.
Yeah, all right.
Now, I don't know whether I'm, pushing out an open door because I don't know where the 1.8 metres is measured from, as it were, because it's 22 at the rear is very much lower than 24. It's about.
No, we understand the point. So as I said, it is something that we're drilling down on. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to move on. Marge McInnes. Yep. Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm sorry.
Oh, you've got the floor.
Great. Again, thank you very much for the opportunity to say something. I just really wanted to make the point or elaborate on the point that I made in the written submission about livability. I think you've visited this morning, and these houses in Shooter Street are very narrow on long blocks of land. So the main aspect has become the rear of the property, because in a terrace house by its very nature, the living is not at the front, the view, the airflow, the front is really basically on the street. So many of the properties have glazed the back of their house and built decks to take, to be able to use the view and see glimpses of sky, greenery, district and water views. And I think collectively we've all been privileged to be able to experience that and use it and have a classic Australian lifestyle of being able to have an indoor-outdoor living space in a small area, small tight house. And I think that that view and that space is something that needs to be preserved. And I think the rear setback, even though council have made a plan perhaps to bring it back, the rear setback on 22 is going to completely obliterate the views that we have, which give us also some southerly breezes. These houses get hot, they're small, they're not air conditioned by and large. So I think it's really important that we look at the scale and the size and the livability of the existing properties in light of what's been proposed at number 22. So that's all I've got to say. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Marge. And we did get to your property, so we're very clear on how this building sits in relation to your property. So thanks for that. Panel members,
Thank you.
Any questions?
No, thanks.
Next submitter, Ken and Katie Rapuch. Have I got that right? Ken and Katie, are you there?
Having a problem with the phone. Want me to time for you?
Can't see if they're there.
First of
Yeah, it says it there.
Ken and Katie.
You're on mute. Ken?
So
There
we're in
you are.
Western Australia, so here we go. I think
All
we're on
right,
track now.
you've got the floor, and we're very jealous that you're in WA.
Oh.
So,
Thank you very much. So thank you very much to the panel for giving us the opportunity to speak. We're in 37 Thomas Street, below the Shooter Street development in the Victorian Terrace, which we renovated into an attic space and a dormer. Our main objection is the scale and bulk in relationship to the Shooter Thomas Union Conservation Area. And this is quite an unprecedented building with regard to this area. And as Hugh pointed out, the DA is not really, in fact, a two-storey and attic. It's for a three-storey house with a first-storey extensive overlooking of 37, 39 and 35 Thomas Street from fairly high traffic areas on the top level. Our main issue really is the first floor rear extension size, relating that to the floor of the rear of 37, Shooter Street properties as such.
We've lost you.
Yeah, well, we also agree with Marge that the houses in Shooter Street, 30, 24 and 26 in particular, are very narrow and have a much higher living amenity encroachment from that space. Our second observation is regarding the fence, which we built in conjunction with the other residences in 2022. It's currently 1,600 from our properties and borders 37, 39 and 41 Thomas Street, as well as 22 and 24 Shooter Street, which we would like to maintain in a continuous style and height. It is in very, very good condition. Our final point is for the storm water absorption pit, which is in the southwest corner of the development, which we would like to be moved back to the edge of the rear paved area, so the water can be absorbed by the soft landscaping of the new development, not draining down into our properties on the very shallow bedrock, which it has done in the past and caused us issues. Finally, we'd like to thank Council for the review process to allow the opportunity for us residents to protect our own amenity, to ensure that developments are sensitive and respectful to the heritage conservation values and the LEP guidelines. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Ken. That's very clear, and we've got a map so we understand where your property is.
Yep.
Panel members, any questions?
Put them on mute.
Who's that?
Put them on mute. Hang on. Okay.
So, panel, any members? Kate and
You're still talking.
Ken, thank you very much for that submission. It's quite clear, and as I said, we did get the opportunity to go out on site, so we're able to observe that fence and the relationship to your property. So thank you for that. They're the only submitters I have on this one. I'm now going to move over to the applicant. I've got a number of people registered to speak. Milad Faroki, Abby, I'm going to mangle this, Yingana. I've got Mark Solomon and Michael Azani. So Mark Solomon, can I just check on who's presenting or if everyone's seeking to present?
Milad, how did you want to do this? I'm happy to do some talking. How about,
Hi everyone.
me?
I think I'm just gonna leave that to Mark to start, and if there's any point, I'm happy to sort of jump in.
Okay. So do I take it, Mark, you're going to present and perhaps respond to what you've heard, and then if you need the architect to add anything, then you can throw to him as well.
Sure. Can you hear me properly?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Look, this development has gone through quite an extensive process and backwards and forwards with council, so that we could, and also in light of the objections or considerations raised by the submitters, and the design has been amended accordingly and further amended through the deferred commencement. With regards to the first floor setback, I'm not so sure that it's appropriate to use a tape measure or something of that nature to actually try and work out where the alignments are. The whole of the site is done by registered survey, including the neighbouring sites. So what you see on plan should be fairly accurate. So I think the 3 metre setback, to go beyond the 3 metre setback, is probably requesting something over and above than what is necessary. It's those calculations and distances are done by are based on a registered survey. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend, or I haven't had the benefit of having a look at the visual impacts from adjoining sites. But as I've said, the deferred commencement acknowledges the preservation of those view lines, and it requests that any future plans that are submitted have to be in line with what's required in the deferred commencement, and that'll be to council's satisfaction. I think other than that, I think we've gone through an extensive process. I don't think there's anything more to be said about that. Milad, do you need to add anything?
Hey, sorry to jump in. I just thought it probably worth sort of mentioning some of the changes we had to make during this extensive process since we first lodged the DA. The first DA we lodged was pretty much a year ago, and which the rear setback was much further back, and we had basically front setback aligning with the adjoining property. As part of the sort of comments and feedbacks we received from council team, we had to push the building back from the street by a meter. And even though we sort of are complying with the numerical controls, we've been told that the view from the adjoining property to our right, when you're standing in front of the building, is to be preserved, which from an architectural point of view, I think that the privacy is something that we should consider, given that the view that the neighbor has to Anzac Bridge is actually in conflict with the preserving the privacy between both properties, and there might be some sort of requirement for a privacy screens between there, which will obscure the view anyway. And looking at the context, there are quite a few properties further up the road that has the first floor balcony extending closer to the rear, like they're extending much further out, and there is I don't see any sort of alignment between those rear setbacks that these properties along the street have. And I appreciate the view sharing is very important matter to consider, but the privacy is something that also needs to be sort of be considered here as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'm just going to see if there's any questions. I might open up with one. Can we just be clear in terms of what this application is proposing in relation to fencing?
Can I also interrupt and ask that you, can we see you, because you're currently a blank screen? Could you turn your picture on, please?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, it's just more comfortable. Thank you.
All right.
So is there a quick answer to the fencing? What's the proposal? What's the application proposing in terms of fencing? There's references to 1.8 metre fence. We've heard from adjoining owners that their preference is to keep some of the good fences that are already there. So what has been on these plans? What were you proposing?
Look, we are sort of flexible with the height of the fencing as much as the privacy between the neighbors are preserved. And I think at the time of the survey, because of the nature of the site, the surveyor couldn't sort of give us the exact RL of the neighboring properties, because it was basically impossible for them to sort of point those sort of levels. So I think it definitely needs further investigation to sort of see what's the finish level of the property to our right and the property to our left, to work out what's the best sort of fencing height to be placed there. And from the sort of controls point of view, I think 1.8 is what generally councils require for the site boundaries. And that's what we put on our drawings. But I guess it just needs to be confirmed at a later stage when we have more certainty on those levels.
Right, so we don't know.
Well, we have tried to make our best guess based on some of the applications that was previously lodged for some of the other properties along the street. And the height of the fence we proposed was 1.8 meters from the finish floor level. But if it means that we need to keep some of the existing fences there on the side, and some of them has to be replaced with the new one, we are happy. If they're in a good condition, we're happy to keep those.
All right, thank you. Panel members, questions?
Yes, with the privacy, I wasn't really quite sure. Are you trying to protect your own private, like you've got a privacy fence on the first level balcony, what were you saying? That you wanted more privacy fencing or what?
No, sorry, I think what was being said was that generally all upper level balconies or decks generally have privacy screens to the side boundaries, especially being so close to those boundaries. And those that are currently existing on neighbouring sites don't have that. Were they to have them, then they would have had obscured views. But generally speaking, you would normally have privacy screens on those terraces and decks.
But I'm probably going to disagree with you a little bit there. In scenarios where people have views out to the harbour, those types of terraces tend to avoid privacy screens, and what happens is people put up with a level of mutual overlooking. So on site today, the two balconies that we went on didn't have any type of privacy screening. And that seems to be typical of, and you see it on other harbourfront sites, that it would be something that would be generally avoided because of the fact that it does impact upon view. So it's a bit different in this scenario, that the closest balconies at the upper levels do not have privacy screening. So picking up on Roz's point, what are you trying to do with your privacy screen proposal? Protect your privacy?
Well, the privacy screens are there to protect our privacy and also neighbors' privacy.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions?
No.
Oh, actually, just to the architect. Can you just explain why you're raising the rear ground level in the order of, and we're going to get this right, it's about 1 metre. I'm just looking at some spot heights. There looks to be a spot height of 48.40, and you're looking at a finished floor level of 49.350. Why, that's right, isn't it? But about 900.
Yeah.
Why are we increasing the ground level at the rear to that extent?
It's just having a level access to the living room, the lawn area and the landscape area, and we are not raising it all the way back to the boundary. It's offset by, off the memory, 1.5 meters or something around that number, and then there's a retaining wall which transits from that 900 higher level to a very close level of the existing ground line. So it just to provide a level access and sort of amenities for the living room and outdoor area.
Right. Okay. Well, the panel's going to be taking a close look at that because
Sure.
of the proximity to backyards, fence heights, and what that means for overlooking and privacy to surrounding development as well.
I'm just conscious that there are some spot levels in the survey of the adjoining properties, and when I measure off one of in the elevations, your fence height, the fence height itself is 2.5 metres plus the retaining wall. So, it's all a bit unclear.
Sure. So which drawing are you looking at, or is it getting too much into
If you look
details?
at elevation AO203, that fence height, it's the fence height above the wall itself measures off at 2.5 metres, not 1.8.
Well,
You're telling us that you didn't really know what the levels were anyway. So
yeah, exactly. So I'm just trying to find that drawing. Did you say drawing 103 or 203?
203.
Right. Okay. Also, they're basically 1.8 from the neighbor's ground level, not from
No,
all.
it's not. No, it's 3.4 from the neighbour's ground level.
It's 1.4 from the neighbors.
No.
Yeah, on that level, it's about 3.4.
I'm not sure if I'm looking at the right drawing. So you mentioned drawing
A3,
2 or 3.
elevation
2 or
sheet
3.
3.
Yes, elevation sheet 3. So if you, for example, go to drawing 202, elevation sheet number 2, you see that the neighbors is actually approximately a meter higher or even more from our ground level. So we try to play with the play with the proposed levels to work with the slope of the land. And the 1.8 meters on that drawing is actually measured from the outdoor level of number 24.
I was discussing number 20 because I'm looking at the south elevation.
So they seems to be lower than our property.
They
as
are.
well. Yeah. So 1.8 meters is measured from our finish level.
Yeah, I think the point is that the fencing seems to be a bit inconsistent, and it's another matter that the panel's going to be looking at quite closely.
Sure.
Because just on some of those drawings, it looks to be getting quite excessive in height.
Sure. No,
But-
we have
but
to
sorry,
provide details.
There's no reason why we couldn't have step fencing so that it's stepped 1.8 meters across along that boundary.
Thank you.
I mean, that's the way we could get around that simply.
As I said, we'll be looking at that as it's been raised by a number of submitters, but also it's a matter that we're looking at in terms of the levels of land that you're proposing and the scale of fencing that's being proposed as well. With that, I think that's all that we need to hear from you guys. Thank you for that. That assists in our kind of deliberation of this. So with that, I'm going to finish any discussion on item 1 for 22 Shooter Street. So everybody can, on that matter, feel free to go back to your day jobs. There won't be any further discussion of that in the public forum.
Thank you.
I'm going to move on to item 2. Item 2 is for the development application at 51 to 59 Alexander Street in Crow's Nest for the demolition and construction of a new 3-storey commercial building with ground level retail and 2 levels commercial office space. I've got one person registered to speak, Jason Kingston. Jason, are you here?
You're on mute, Jason.
Hi, good afternoon, panel members.
Hi, Jason. Have you got a
Can you-
camera that you can turn on as well, or are you just on your phone?
Just on my phone.
Yeah, right.
So really, I do not have anything to submit. I was just here to represent the applicant for 51 Alexander Street. We appreciate council's positive recommendation for this DA to go through, and we appreciate their constructive assessment during the whole process. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Oh, that's good. We've been to the site, so we're clear on what's being proposed. So I don't think there's any questions from the panel on this matter. So thanks, Jason, for turning up and being available if we needed you. But as I said, there's aren't any real questions. We understand the plans fairly easily. So with that, thank you. We're not going to have any further discussion of item 2 in this forum. Moving on to item 3 for the development application at 126 to 128 Willoughby Road, Crow's Nest. This is for alts and adds to an existing commercial building with an additional story containing 3 by 1 bedroom apartments and to change the overall use to shop top housing. I've only got one person registered to speak, Ken Demalican. Ken, are you here?
Hi, Mr. Chair. Yes, I am. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes,
okay?
we can hear you and see you. That's good.
Perfect. Look, thank you. Look, I again, thank you, panel members, for hearing me. I appreciate council's positive recommendations with regard to this project. I don't know if you've received, but this morning I submitted to Mr. Damon Kenny, the planning officer, both a Word and a PDF document of the of the conditions of approval, I just wanted to ask the panel to consider a couple of things. This particular development was the subject of a previous submission, which was refused, and a lot of negotiations regarding conditions had taken place and agreed with council. They just didn't make their way into this particular recommendation. We originally applied for 4 and we reduced to 3 apartments and some of the conditions. So I don't know if the mechanism is such. I was going to quickly run through those. Am I able to share my screen and run through 4 or 5 things, or is that not possible?
No, you can't share a screen. You can tell us.
Okay,
you can
no problem.
Make a presentation. Do I understand you've put this in writing?
I put it in writing and sent it, and I was of the understanding that it was going to be put in front of you.
Right, we'll get it in front of us. But if you can just top of mind,
Sure.
And maybe just highlight whether or not these are substantive matters or otherwise.
No problem. So it's very simple, and I'll leave the rest of my time up to answer any questions that the panel might have. So just very quickly, it's been recommended as a deferred commencement approval rather than a DA approval. The deferred commencement condition relates to a request we submitted a BCA report, which to council with the submission, which I understand they considered to be not covering sufficiently the sections of the BCA, being D1 to D3, E and F. And we undertook to obviously then provide that. The one thing I asked the panel is to assist with our planning, given the time of year and our desire to want to get on, start the CC process, get people in place, is that there seems to be no reason why the deferred commencement condition, which is one condition, can't be incorporated into the conditions of the approval rather than be a deferred commencement condition. The condition is sound and we have every intention of complying with it, but we would like to ask that we just get a DA so that we can move on and get things going. So that's one request I have of the panel to consider. Then the other ones are that this is actually a conversion wholly within inside the building and on the rooftop itself with no external works taking place. Previously, council had agreed to the bond being set at $5,000 because there's nothing externally that we can't be held accountable to and that we would do and council could legally enforce. It's gone back to $67,000 as an infrastructure damage bond. So I would appreciate council had previously agreed to the $5,000 in our previous submission, and I would respectfully ask that that be reduced so that it's not a punitive amount of money that's set aside. Then there are just some, in the document I provided, there are just some wording to conditions that I won't bother labouring through. I would ask the panel to please consider, such as making it a requirement to get a dilapidation report of adjoining properties. The condition is sound, but we had in there last time agreed to a clause that said that if the adjoining property owners did not provide us with the access required, that wouldn't hold us up and council would accept that if we could provide evidence that we were not being provided with access. So they couldn't just hold us up. Look, fundamentally, most of the other stuff I will leave in the document that I provided. It speaks for itself. It was previously agreed. I would just ask that those conditions be amended accordingly if the panel is of such agreement. And look, that's really it. I then make myself available to any questions.
All right, thanks for that. We'll get that document and understand it. But if I understand, the two substantive ones is in relation to the deferred commencement and the value of the bond. Yeah.
Correct. There are some double up of conditions, but I think that when one looks at those, the conditions have been repeated a few times and so on. That's just grammatical stuff. I'm pretty sure that will all be okay. We've set a very clearly marked up document with red and blue showing what previous clauses were deleted and what new clauses were agreed to previously. So it should be very easy to follow.
All right. Okay, thank you. Panel members, any questions of Ken?
No, thank you.
All right, then we'll take on board that document. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'm moving on to item 4. Item 4 is for 450 to 476 Miller Street in Camaray. There's a change of use for a fitness centre for a 24/7 operation. I've got one person registered to speak, Charles Guthrie from BCS Strata. Charles, are you there?
I am, thank you.
See you.
Good afternoon, panel members. Madam Chair, thank you for allowing me to speak. Look, I am speaking on behalf of the Owners Corporation. Unfortunately, the timing of the panel hearing was such that they couldn't attend themselves, and I volunteered. So I'm not entirely sure how useful I'm going to be at answering any questions. But essentially, they'd obviously like to rely upon the submission that they've already made. As a very brief summary of that submission, essentially, the residents would like to object to the DA and request that it is denied by the panel. Whilst the residents acknowledge the gymnasium could operate during the trading hours of 6 a.m. to 10 p.m, they totally reject the use between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m, and therefore the notion of the trial period as well. The residents believe the trading between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. will be minimal, that the trade will be unsupervised. There'll be no one in the office. The nature of those type of gyms is that there's no one there. You have a pass key, let yourself in, and have objections based upon excessive noise and security concerns. The residential apartments there, I'm certain you went round there, are above and a part of that complex. So they're not neighbouring, they're intrinsically linked. The residents also believe that operating between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. goes against the existing use and character of the complex, whereby all retail and commercial trading hours fall between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. and has done so for the past 18 years. The residents question the relevance of the referral to previous applications for trial periods to extend trading hours, and they refer to page 13 of the application. All trial periods cited were approved by modification to existing development approvals, and all fell within the existing trading hours of 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Further, it should be emphasised that all approvals were for ground floor retail only, and no extension was ever granted to operate beyond 10 p.m. They would also like me to talk about the zoning objectives for Camaray. There are 7 zoning objectives, and they question whether the following 5 of these have been properly considered or are relevant. 1, it should provide a diversity for use of the community. Is one of them. There are already several gymnasiums in the immediate area, with many more in the surrounding suburbs within easy reach of Camaray. They are concerned that this is not creating diversity by opening another gym. It should generate employment and economic growth. The property is unstaffed for most of the proposed timeframe, with minimal patrons at any one time outside the existing centre opening hours of 6 a.m. to 10 p.m, with no business administration on site. So the question is raised, is this generating employment? 3, it enables residential development to activate the local area. The gymnasium will be housed within the existing commercial use and cannot generate additional residential use within the complex. How does this activate additional development when the use is already duplicated in the area? The space already exists and is situated at the rear of the complex. And 4, it encourages non-residential use at ground level. Gymnasium is located on level 1 in an existing tenancy, and all tenancies within the complex at ground level are all retail, leased and operating. This implies the objective has already been met and therefore not relevant. And 5, it encourages street activation. The gymnasium is located on level 1 and does not face the street. It should be noted that all retail and commercial tenancies trade from within the plaza. I thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Charles. That was clear. We've been to the site, so we're very clear on where it is. We actually did go into the basement as well to understand how people might be able to access the site after hours, and are familiar with the facility as well. So thank you for that. I don't know if panel members any questions.
I do have one question. Just Charles, could
Sure.
you clarify that the strata bylaws say that there can't be any businesses operating between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m.?
Yeah,
that's what you said.
Yeah, it's a complex arrangement around there. So there's in places what's called a BMC, a Building Management Committee, and so it's established as the overarching authority for the residential and commercial, and to manage what's called shared facilities. So there's a load of facilities that they all share, the residential and commercial. For example, the underground car park area, the fire safety for the property, the insurance for the property. And so it's that BMC document, the management statement, which is registered on the strata plans, certificate of title, as well as on the certificates of title for all of the residential retail lots. So everyone's legally bound to this document. It's that document which has the operating hours of 6 a.m. to 10 p.m.
So that would include a first floor commercial operation?
Correct. It includes all of the commercial lots around there. All those commercial lots are bound by the SMS.
Thank you for that.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks, Charles, for taking the time to make that presentation. We'll leave it at that and move on to our next item. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Double check. I haven't got any applicant representative on that. No one's registered. Yep. Thank you. Moving on to item 5. Item 5 is alterations and additions to the existing dwelling at 55 Cowdroy Avenue. I've got the applicant's representative, Tom Hutchinson from Hutchinson Planning, ready to present. Tom, you have the floor. Happy to hear from you. We also have your recent submission as well. I think that came in. I got that yesterday.
Great, thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah, good afternoon, Chair and panel members. I'm Tom Hutchison from Hutchison Planning, and yes, as you said, you've got my submission with the updated site coverage and landscape diagrams. I'm really going to be speaking a bit to these. So in my presentation, I just wanted to address the determinative issues in the report, namely the site coverage, landscaping, and the character and scale. So firstly, talk about the site coverage and the updated diagrams that we've submitted. We've confirmed the site coverage at 57%, and you'll see that we've identified on each of the levels what we've included in that to result in the site coverage figure. So now I just wanted to really talk about the landscape response. So we've done what we consider to be 2 meaningful refinements. Firstly, we've increased the landscaped area down the side setbacks of the building. Previously, that was unbuilt upon area. And we have proposed a green roof over the garage. We acknowledge that that's not landscaped area. It's still site coverage, but it will be, it'll have a green roof on it, which will contribute to softening the presentation of the built form within the front setback zone and assist in reducing the perceived bulk from Cowdroy Avenue and visually connecting the building within the bushland setting. And so this, I think that these 2 measures materially strengthen the landscape response and will really assist in mitigating the building mass. So now I just wanted to talk a bit about the character, scale, and perceived intensity. So I think that these will be softened and become more recessive with the landscape treatments that we're proposing, both on the sides and from the front. So as the side ones obviously do it from adjoining property perspective, and also some points of view along Cowdroy Avenue, but the green roof over the garage will have that impact or that effect from a streetscape point of view particularly. So I just wanted to talk then a bit about the height and amenities. So we do note that the council's the assessment report confirms that the clause 4.6 variation is well founded for the departure in height for part of the front of the building. and that there's no adverse impacts that arise from that height exceedance, including no impacts on view sharing, privacy, overshadowing, and those points are not in contention. So really in closing, we wanted to request that the panel, instead of follow the recommendation for refusal, potentially support the proposal, or alternatively defer the decision pending some landscape refinements and detailed information on how we're going to treat those additional landscaped areas. Yeah, thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thanks, Tom. I might open with one. Look, we're informed from council that more recent approvals in the area have tended to comply with the site coverage requirement. And I note that this isn't a straight R2 zone. It's actually a zone that has objectives about bushland setting and landscape setting. In your refinement, and I agree that the changes to the landscaped area is good, and the greening of the garage roof is a positive movement. Did you look at any consideration of perhaps reducing the size of the building along the back of the lot to actually improve the site coverage compliance? Just looking at where it sits with particularly the adjoining properties next door, and how much along the lot that the proposal extends along the lot. So while you've looked at the reasons for refusal, I think from our perspective, the key thing from council was the amount of building on the site. Did you take any consideration of having a think about that?
I think some consideration was given to it, but that this would be the preferred position. Yeah. So I suppose the answer to that was considered, but perhaps not as a priority to what I've just put forward.
Yeah.
So one of my concerns about you comment about extending the landscaping down the sides of the building is that at the moment there's a whole series of steps that provide access to the rear. So are you indicating that you're going to remove those steps that go to the rear on both sides?
That's right. That's
so
right.
How are you going to get to the rear?
Stepping stone.
Stepping stones, exactly right. And also that there's no primary reason to use that path anymore. So you can access the rear yard through the house, and the dwelling is accessed from the street. So those side setbacks don't really serve much purpose other than for servicing the dwelling, cleaning windows and things. So it's possible to plant that out and provide stepping stones for access.
So both sides?
That's on both sides, yeah. So that would be, and that's what I was saying, is if you were to defer it, then a landscape plan would obviously need to be done to document that properly to come back to you for determination.
Did you, what's the plan reference number to the landscaping plan that you submitted?
We didn't submit a landscape plan.
Why was that?
It wasn't prepared, and it wasn't requested as an additional information item.
Oh, it's interesting because with matters of this scale and context, I thought that would have been one of the issues that you would have, whether you were requested or not. You say that the green roof will soften the built form. Can you elaborate on that for me? I can't understand what you mean by that.
So, I mean, from any streetscape point of view, when vegetation, it won't just be turf, it'd need to be shrubs also, small trees potentially, to be planted over that roof. So from when you see the dwelling from the streetscape, you'll see that vegetation as part of the foreground in that front setback zone, and then the dwelling sitting behind that. That hasn't been documented yet. It would need to be, clearly. That's why we're asking for a deferral, so that landscape plan can be prepared, and then this DAB then returned to the panel to review that additional documentation and a determination.
Thanks, Tom. Look, we're clear on what your position is and understand why. As I said, we'll take that on board. But I think the key thing here is, as you've obviously picked up on, is the landscape context, but also that site coverage issue is kind of one of the key focuses that we will be looking at quite closely. So okay, thank you for that. Thanks for that presentation, and thank you for preparing the additional documentation for our consideration. You can go back to your day job.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 6. Item 6 is 11 Bennett Street at Cremorne. It's for a modification to the existing development consent to include roof additions and terraces, and includes some internal reconfiguration to facilitate the additional bedroom. I've got Gillian Calapelito. I think I've probably mangled that, Gillian. Sorry. To present, and nice to see you again. We got to your property, so we're going to be quite clear on the matters that you're going to be raising. So very happy to hear from you. And we do have your written submission in front of us as well.
I think you also have a handout too with some pictures that you can refer to, or elevations.
We do.
Okay. Look, thank you for the opportunity to address you, and thank you for visiting our property this morning. As you could see, it's a recently renovated heritage listed property. I guess I wanted to highlight the fact that while many people value views when purchasing a property, my husband and I were both raised in the country, and we value space, gardens, privacy and sunshine. So we are concerned about the impact of this modification on basically our gardens, our privacy and our sunshine. So basically you've got before you a property with a long history of applications to council, with references twice to your panel and an appeal to the Land Environment Court. There have been a large number of objections from neighbours and the community, and this new application seeks to modify the Land and Environment Court approval. So there've been a lot of concessions that have already been achieved through the Land and Environment Court, and I understand I'm not able to question those today, but I think that they need to provide a background for what we're considering today. So our real concern is the impact on our visual and acoustic privacy and our northern sun. So the base level of the land is already being used as 1.5 metres higher than the original level. And I know that's not in contention, but that is a fact that is supported by the original survey and pre-demolition plan. But that means that the roof line that we now have as a maximum of 10.8 metres is effectively 3.8 metres higher than the original level of the land. So it's the 1.5 that was that has been approved, that is higher, plus the 2.3. So the handout that you've been given shows a photo taken in May 2024, and that's the front page, which I think shows the true situation for us, you know, that we look straight out on that back block. And in fact, the huge expanse of glass on the southern elevation looks straight towards our yard. Today you saw that view with the bamboo that we've planted, and it appears to give us protection, but I would contend that's mainly visual and gives virtually no acoustic protection. There's also a limit to how high we can grow that bamboo, and it's demanding to maintain. For us, the worst aspect of that is the higher that we need to grow it to maintain our privacy, the more sun we lose, and that's our northern sun. At the top of the second page, you can see the southern elevation, which has been approved by the Land Environment Court, and the enormous expanse of glass that goes straight across the back of our property with the two buildings with a huge amount of full-length glass. By any account, that is an enormous amount of glass, and I don't know anywhere else where that amount of glass is at that height looking into a heritage listed property. It's quite gut-wrenching for us, I'd have to say. And that is already 1.5 meters higher than the original level. And I know that can't be in contention, but that is, it does sit at higher on the block. The middle diagram there shows the western elevation and shows that the roof level part is hatched there, which is above the 8.5 metre height restriction. That's not taken consider that extra 1.5 metres I've talked about. That's the new height level. That area hatched is above the height restriction, and that's the area that they're wanting to put this new living space into. So basically, we've had approved a roof that is above the height restriction by the Land Environment Court. But now what they're asking is, well, we've got that through the Land Environment Court. Why can't we make that a living area? But that is nearly all above the height restriction. So the third picture there shows the south elevation with the living space at the top. And might I say that is it's shown as a master bedroom. It's not hard to think that that would be used as a living space because there is still effectively a master bedroom on the level below. So that is the huge expanse of glass, which is looking over our backyard, impacting on our enjoyment of our heritage listed property. Over the page, on page 3, are the two previously refused southern elevations. When I say previously refused, the North Sydney Local Planning Panel refusals. And I have to say the modification now doesn't look too much different to those two previous refusals. So we have a developer who is by stealth trying to achieve what hasn't been able to be achieved before. And if he wanted that third level, that should have been what went to the Land Environment Court. I contend that the Land Environment Court would not have approved that third level. It was approved in that above the height restriction because it was roof only. So I guess from my perspective,
you probably need to wrap up now because you're over
well, what's been achieved is pretty incomprehensible from our perspective. The huge expanses of glass, the suggestion of the additional terrace and more glass, we just think is just so unfair. Please, can we have no more breaches? If this is accepted, what next? Do we come back with another modification? I think the line was crossed with the Land Environment Court approval. And I speak on behalf of a number of neighbours, and you saw the impact on them this morning. Can I just conclude by saying, if you are inclined to approve this, can I suggest some extra conditions? Can I suggest that the height of the planter box is increased from 1 to 1.3 metres? Can I suggest that the depth of the planter box be at least 3 metres and that in fact that top balcony be made untrafficable? Can I also suggest that there is a condition C3 in brackets 2 to plant 2 mature trees to a height of at least 7 metres in the backyard. That was imposed without any consultation with us and would just further reduce our northern sun. I know it's supposed to help us, but in fact for us, we think that is not a help. It's just going to further reduce our northern sun. So look, thank you for the time, and I'm happy to take any questions.
All right, thank you, Gillian, for that. Panel members, any questions?
None from me, thank you.
No. Gillian, getting to the site today assisted us greatly, so we understand the matters that you've raised, and that it's also beneficial to take us through the history of the application as well. So thank you for that. I'm going to move on to the applicant's representative. Now I've got 4 people registered to speak. Top of the list for no other reason, I can see Orla McCaffrey. They're Orla. Have you got any, is there any organisation of who's presenting? I've got yourself, Mark Scott from the Architects, Clayton Thickett from Neoscape, and Cameron McDonald. So happy for you to coordinate who's speaking to us.
Yeah, I'm happy to speak and happy maybe to have some comments from Mark Scott as the architect and Jennifer Hill as heritage consultant. Ultimately, we fully support the approval recommendation, and as you'll have seen in a submission that we sent on Monday, we just wanted to request a minor modification to one of the conditions. The condition has requested that the wall on the southern terrace is increased by 1 metre, and we just raised some concerns with regard to the bulk that would create. And we've suggested that as a design solution, that opaque glazing is applied on the glass on top of that wall, as opposed to increasing the height of the wall. And we've submitted some diagrams just to show, where we're coming from with that. And we hope that you consider amending that condition as per our request. Also just happy to respond to some of those points that have been raised. So there were some fill works on this site. We've been engaging with council throughout this mod. The fill was to address a flooding issue on the site. There was stagnant water, which was causing issues with mosquitoes. Council were notified of those fill works, and the plans that we submitted with the mod reflect the levels as per the court approval. So the ridge levels that are provided on the plans are considered to be accurate. We also submitted an updated photo montages just to show the impact, the visual impact. These photo montages have shown that there's no additional impacts on views of the CBD. And we also submitted updated solar access diagrams, which have shown that there is no additional impact other than on the adjacent tennis court past 3 p.m. in the afternoon. Happy for Mark or Jennifer to come in on any of those issues raised either.
So all up, maybe as I'm not sure who's prepared the diagram in your latest submission, might be Mark. Just trying to understand how that addresses the sightline issue that the council condition was proposing. Because from the plans, we think the glass on top of the wall is probably only about 1.1 metres. So I'm just not sure how making that obscure is going to address the sightline issue that I think the council condition was seeking to address.
My understanding was that the council condition was to make the overall height of that wall of the terrace 1 metre tall. And what we were suggesting was the glazed element that's on top of the masonry planter be obscured to achieve what council are asking for, but without a full masonry element.
Okay, I think council was looking at addressing sightlines. So I think it was the end what's coming up, wasn't it? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think
I think
the whole plant
it was the plant. It was the edge of the planter that was to come up to a metre because it was about sightlines. Just
So
interrupting
the leading, sorry to interrupt, the leading edge of the building, which is the parapet that wraps around the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the issue for us with that is to achieve that we'd have to increase the parapet, you know, around the whole building because it's one height that sort of tucks under the eave of the roof, and doing that would increase, you know, overall bulk and shadows and all the rest of it. So it was just a way of trying to address both things in the least impactful way possible.
All right, questions, panel?
Not from me, thanks.
I just, we heard from the submitter there, you may have been referencing this previously, that if it was to be approved, it was requested of the panel to consider the height of the planter box going from 1 to 1.3 metres and the depth to a minimum of 3 metres. Can I get your comments on that, please?
I suppose our comments on that are, you know, the sightline diagram we provided illustrates. I just I don't see the difference in making that wall 1.3 meters is really going to have any meaningful impact given the distance from our terrace and the living spaces of the neighbors.
But it is achievable. That's what I'm asking.
It's not, well, without design changes to the roof, it's not achievable because the at the moment the masonry wall that forms the parapet tucks in beneath the eave of the roof, and that was a design decision to you know, which was agreed with kind of heritage input to be suitable for the streetscape. That wouldn't be possible if you were to raise the masonry wall to 1.3 meters. It just would have several impacts which I sort of can't articulate in without, you know, modeling it.
And I can't find anywhere on the plans where it says how wide the planter actually is.
If you give me a second, I'll.
Question about soil depth as well. Sorry? Question on soil depth planter as well.
Yeah. Finding.
We are about 600 mil of soil depth.
Yeah, because there's really not a lot of detail on this planter in your plans. There's no depth, there's no width, there's.
Yeah, okay, that's reasonable. I think you can sort of extrapolate it from the height of the balustrade and the RL of the level 2 floor, but it's in the region of 600 mil for the soil depth.
That's the soil depth. What about the width of it? It looks like it's.
Yeah, I'm just sorry. I'm just.
Are you just sorting that? Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Just give me one moment.
So there's two widths.
It's about 2 meters-ish or something. Is that right?
Yeah.
When I compare it, that's 1.8. Looks a wee bit wider than that. But if you were to make it wider than that just sticks further out towards the south, doesn't it? Really, you can't drag it inside.
So it's about 2.4 meters from the edge of the parapet to the glass balustrade of the terrace.
That's to the terrace, which is a little bit deeper than the balance of it. So if that's 2.4, is it about 2 meters for the rest of it?
No, it's consistent across the back of the sorry, I'm just mentioning.
Not on my plan, it's not.
Actually, it's not consistent between your plans. Your landscape plans have got it flat, running
Sorry.
flat.
Yeah.
Yeah, terrace off the master bedroom is steps in from the, well, I'm just going to call it your eaves.
Yeah, but on the landscape plan, it's a straight line.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, sorry, it's you're right.
2.4.
Yeah, it's 2.6 at the it's probably 2,650 at the deepest part. Yeah.
Yeah, 2,650, and at the normal, at the majority of it, it's about
2.4.
2.4. All right, no.
And 600 millimeters worth of planting.
Yeah, that's correct.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Panel members, any other questions?
No other questions.
All right.
Do we assume that you want the step in at the terrace, not the flat bit like the landscape plan shows?
Yeah, no, it should be as per the architectural drawings. So it's got the step in. Yeah, we reduced that to increase the differential.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody, for taking the time to be available to present on that matter. You're all off the hook now. You can go back to your day jobs. I'm moving on to item 7, which is the development application at 2 Waroota Street, Kirribilli, for the partial demolition of the existing structures and also adds to what was an approved residential flat building to a change of use to a single dwelling, roof terrace and garage parking. We have a number of people registered to speak. I can see Brian Wong from the MHN Design Union Group. Had seen Tony Moody earlier on.
You want to
unmute? You're still there with, you did have your camera on earlier. So Tony, I'm just going to throw to you. There's Kevin, Alex and Brian, yourself, and then Brian Song, the owner. I'm happy for you to direct the traffic as to who is presenting to us.
Thanks, Chair.
Tony and his camera. Sorry, Tony, I'm just trying to figure out why we haven't got you on camera again.
That may be beneficial.
Yeah, we did see you earlier, but he's gone. Why is that?
Can you hear me, Chair?
We can hear you. As I said, we had seen you before, and we're just trying to figure out why we can't. I can see the all the architects group. So right,
I'll proceed if you like.
Well, that's
all right. Well,
that's Mark's off.
I don't know why we've got.
Just hang on a sec. I'll just see if we can find you.
Stuff his camera turned off.
No, I've got the camera on, yes. I did have a problem with my phone previously, so it could be my problem.
Radio, you have the floor, Tony. You're directing the traffic of your group.
Chair and panel members, Tony Moody, consultant planner. I would like, Kevin NG is going to speak second and to answer any questions and to make some brief comments about the architectural design. I fully support the proposed development. I should add that I was not the planner for the current approved development, partially constructed but not completed. This is an example of a proposed development which results in significant positive outcomes compared to the approved development. The approved development was for 3 flats. This proposed development is for a single dwelling. There's a range of positive aspects, and I particularly note the comments of Council's Heritage Officer, who describes the current proposed development as a sympathetic outcome, refined architectural response, and improved setback articulation and use of materials. I've rarely seen a proposed development which results in such positive comments from a heritage officer. I wish I could take some credit for the design, but I can't. It was all due to the architects. The proposed development will increase internal amenity, significantly improve the streetscape, reduce traffic, reduce visitor parking spaces, resolve the BCA and fire safety issues, reduce overlooking, resolution of the BCA/fire safety provisions. In terms of height, if one takes it to the bottom of the basement, to the very top, it exceeds. But based on Merman, as you're all aware, if you take it from the level of the adjoining properties, it actually complies. So it's because of that excavation. And as you are aware in Merman, that incidence of excavation is considered an environmental planning ground. There's no material impacts on views, and you've got detailed view loss assessment by John Aspinall. There's also improved streetscape, and that's due to landscaping, the curved nature of part of it, and a much more sympathetic resolution. And I refer you to the photos of the existing, of the approved versus the proposed. In terms of the reduction in the number of dwellings, so to speak, from 3 to 1, the council officers correctly say that the incidence of substantial increase in density of housing in the area more than compensates for the minuscule reduction. Plus, this is a development which results in a range of positive outcomes on a sensitive site in Kirribilli. There is also increase in internal amenity. I think this is a somewhat unusual scenario wherein a council approved development, which was reasonable to approve, is now proposed to be replaced, which has been highly commended by the council officers, particularly council's heritage officer. And I fully support the proposed development. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. Did the architects want to say anything?
Yeah, Kevin and Judy.
Thanks, Tony. Good afternoon, Chair and panel members. My name is Kevin NG, and I'm joined by my colleague Alex Wills from MHN Design Union. Our practice was appointed as the new architects for this project in late 2024. By way of context, the site received its original approval in 2016 and was under construction for several years, with work ceasing around 2024. Since our appointment, we have developed a more sensitive, context-responsive design that recognises the site's unique role as a gateway to Mary Booth Reserve and delivers a markedly improved streetscape presence through reduced bulk, clearer articulation, and a more generous public interface. The design responds directly to the heritage-listed Art Deco building at 8 Waroota Street, Redley, through a brick facade with vertical proportions, recessed openings, and subtle Art Deco references. The proposal forms a pair of brick bookends that reinforce the rhythm and character of this part of the conservation area. A key improvement has been the reduction of visual bulk at street level. By stepping back and softening the lower portion of the building, we've created a clearer, more comfortable pedestrian entry and an interface that sits more appropriately with Waroota Street. Towards Mary Booth Reserve, the building adopts a more open and transparent expression. Tall vertical windows and increased setbacks significantly improve daylight, ventilation, and internal amenity, while forming a calmer and more respectful relationship to the reserve and harbour landscape. Overall, the proposal presents a thoughtful, well-detailed and contextually attuned outcome, improving amenity, reducing perceived bulk and strengthening the architectural contribution to both the street and the reserve. Given the long history of the site and its extended period under construction, completing this building to a high standard will be a positive outcome for the local community. I'd like to conclude by thanking the council for such an expedited process. We lodged the DA, I think, around about October, and we've received a recommendation for this panel meeting. Thank you all.
All right, thank you. Panel members, any questions or queries of the team?
None from me, thanks.
No, it was useful having the architects on site, so we were able to, we've seen the site, we understood the approval and understood the the areas of key change, and also understand that there's been ongoing discussions with the adjoining neighbour to the, I'll get the direction wrong, in east.
No,
Yeah,
west.
West, is it? Yeah,
No.
west. So we've got no questions, so it's quite clear we can understand what's being proposed.